If you could like the video, follow my channel and click on notifications for new videos. I thought I'd do a quick walk down Sheffield Road into Rotherham to show you the completed cycle lanes, but also some of the history around here. Now, just up here to the left, you'll find Dead Man's Old Lane, and that was a training centre I was in at British Steel, Rotherham, from 1980 to 82. About 2 years after that, 83 or 84, they closed the training centre while I was still doing the apprenticeship on site. Didn't even get a certificate of apprenticeship, which I didn't ask for, because I didn't realise till years later I should have had a certificate of my apprenticeship. I got an HNC in Industrial Measurement and Control though, so I was a process control technician at British Steel Rotherham. So this is a Templeborough side of British Steel Rotherham. We had 6 electric arc furnaces here. Prior to that, it had been open arc furnaces. British Steel Rotherham was really modern, so don't go with the basis that we couldn't compete with the rest of the world. We chose not to. As far as I'm concerned, that just sold it off cheaply to all her mates or whatever, and you know the story from then on. So this was the bus turning circle for the 69 bus, and just note how many buses come down here today. And just across here you would have also had, there was a line across this road where they could bring shunting wagons across here as well, and the shunting wagons went off elsewhere. But we didn't have yellow eye visors on in those days, and I don't know anybody who got hurt. You can see some of the old workshops. I was in process control somewhere in here. Spent 2 years on plant in all the different sections right across British Steel Rotherham. They could have competed with Germany, but they chose not to. And I think they probably had a deal with Germany that we'd have the banking and they'd have the industry, but not to the people's benefit in the Midlands and the North, and even London. But you can start to see the start of the cycle lanes from just here. All they've done is like put a raised curb in on one side, but I want you to note how many cyclists we see today as well. But there's exactly this on both sides of the road. But just here it says Brinsworth Training Centre, and I can remember coming down to a canteen here back in the 1980s, a greasy spoon one. I only came once, but I think this is where the production lads probably trained. There's also wash facilities in there. I think it was the washrooms as well. But it says Brinsworth Training Centre on it, but I think it had different purposes that when I was actually at British Steel Rotherham. That's just one cyclist come past me just then. Now we're coming up to Brinsworth Strip Mill, and I heard it had been mothballed and it was no longer working. Well, I've just talked to security, and he says that it's now working under Liberty Steels. So I think for quite a period of time it was shut down as a strip mill. So we have actually got Brinsworth Strip Mill still working here, but they've took all the car parking away and built all over the car parks. So I'd be interested to see what amount of steel they're producing now, or they're just playing about at it these days. But I'll get onto the other side of the road. Might be a better view from the other side, but you can see where all the electric arc furnaces were along here. There's also a rolling mill as well, but I never even saw that when I was training. God, I am seeing cyclists, which is a bit strange. But then look at the volume of cars in comparison. And not wanting to stir racial tensions, But I've been told that a lot of the people coming across on the boats from France are being given bikes to get around on. So is this for cheap labour to come in and out on? So you can see a bit more of Brinsworth Strip Mill along here now. But like I said, all this was car parking all the way along here. I can only think they're playing at making steel now. But now, jumping back to the cycle lanes, it's on the road and now it's not on the road. If you can see what I'm saying, they've raised it up. So why did they raise it up here? Now this Temple pub would have been full of steel workers. It was a bit rough in there. I've only had a pint in there once in the past, I think, but it's now offices, and I understand the guy who's bought it for his officers wanted to keep that tradition going, so at least the Temple pub's still here. Let's go on to the other side. But I think it's cost something like £9 million for cycle lanes from Rotherham town centre to Magna. So we're now on the other side of the road. I just don't see why would you raise the level up to go back down again. That's how I had a nasty accident when I cycled into Sheffield, because I was coming from a road to a cycle lane that was really badly signposted. I didn't know if I should be in the taxi lane or on the pavement, and that split moment cost me. But somewhere just up here was like a big laboratory, and what they used to do is they used to shoot metal samples from where you see Magna across to this big laboratory over here. Well, that's been knocked down quite a few years ago, the laboratory. But you can see on the actual car park now, all they've done is built sort of units. So we're not really producing a lot in the UK. A lot of the time now, all we're doing is actually importing it from abroad. And that's doing damage to our balance of payments. Now, I was a lucky steel worker. I could actually move from the steel industry into the banking industry. I've worked in the City of London, but I've also worked right slap bang next to electric arc furnace, as you saw at Magna. So I've seen both sides of it. You can't run a country on just the service industry. The real wealth's generated by manufacturing. And we were manufacturing quite okay till Thatcher decided to trash the steel industry. And like again, we had all these coal mines around this area. I think we should have had a reduction on the coal mines, but we should have always kept 50% of them for energy security. Because when you actually get rid of your own skills, they start to charge you more. So coal may have been cheaper in the short run, but it'll be costing us through the nose in the long run. Now we've got no collieries left. But as well as having British Steel Rotherham, we had lots of private steelworks. I think this was a rolling mill here. Might have been Temple rolling mill, and there was another one just down there as well, which I think's gone. This was the road up to the Phoenix Social Club, Brinsworth Road, and also the golf course. They blocked that off. I don't know why. It was a nice little shoot through. Anything to make people's life a misery. You can see we're back at the road level again. Why we came up from the road level above and back down again, I don't know. But I have got freedom of information requesting to South Yorkshire Mayoral, because you can see the cycle lanes only going to Magna at the moment, and I think my understanding is they're going to take that all the way through to Sheffield city centre. So I think this first part's cost 9 million. I don't know if that includes a few other parts, or that's 9 million for just from Wellgate up to Magna. So Rotherham Council struggle to repair the roads, but they've got money to spend on this nonsense. Now, I'm all for a tram network, and what I think should have happened is the tram network should have come down Sheffield Road from Sheffield all the way down here into Rotherham town centre. But what they've done is they've took it the back way straight to Parkgate. So what they're doing is they're drawing traffic away from our town centres. But like I said, if we'd have got the original tram network from Sheffield, as it used to be, to Tinsley and then down to Rotherham this way, this would have invigorated some of these businesses. I mean, I'm a fair weather cyclist, and I was umming and ahhing, do I get the cycle out today? Chose not to. So you imagine when you're working, say the migrant labour, they're giving cheap bikes to, or free bikes to. It's not going to be nice for them coming to work on this lot, absolutely soaked before they even start the day. It's just like you're creating slavery all over again. You can't get the British workers to be slaves, so you'll import workers to be slaves. Now somewhere around here, but it's all gone. This was all part of British Steel Rotherham. It's a big parcel force depot now. Was the ramp, and I think something like 10,000 people worked at the ramp in Rotherham. I think the biggest employer now in Rotherham is the NHS. So here again we're going from road level up a bit and back down again. The only improvement I've seen along this road is steel fault that produced tarmac. They've sort of modernised that area since I worked here in the 80s. As you can see, we've got this cycle lane, it's still on the other side, going down. I'm getting people coming on my short videos about the Dutch roundabout in Sheffield. Well, Sheffield's not made for cycling, it's not Holland. Cycling shouldn't be forced on you to get to work. If you've done a good day's work, you don't really want to be on the cycle to work and bike. So we got the X3 now, seems to be running along this road. It was a 69 when I was working down here, straight from Sheffield to Rotherham and back. And I think that X3 now goes to Doncaster. But it's certainly a better day to video than when I videoed it last time. You can see much more clearly all the nonsense down here now. So just here Rickles Way was the central workshops. We also had Phoenix 500 rooms, and that was trashed. Phoenix 500 rooms just here were used by the AGMs, Sheffield Wednesday Football Club and various other things. It could have been turned into a going concern. As a staff member, I used to come and have my lunch in part of the Phoenix rooms, but they had the Phoenix 500 rooms, which was quite exclusive. I think they had dinner dancers in there and all sorts, and they just trashed it. But we also had the central engineering workshops up here as well. So there's a few more cyclists than I thought there would be, but this has all been cut through now. This was all the British Steel Rotherham down here. We're sort of towards the Eccles area, Ring Road products. But most of this is just warehousing. They keep building more and more warehouses, and for example where I live in Dinnington, I think there's about 5 jobs advertised today. There's more jobs, well, there's more units around than when we had a cholera, but we never see jobs advertised locally. So who's getting all these jobs now? And that's where I think they're importing people for that reason, to drive down wages, when we should have been actually automating. You're all right. But what I can't understand, you've seen nobody else walking along here, and all they could have just done is made it into a dual cycle walking area. They didn't have to do what they've done down here. So like I said, you find anybody else walking today that I've not mentioned, we can all get along, can't we, on a canal together, cyclists and walkers. So why couldn't we have done that down here? Just made it cycle and walking on the pavement. But to the left was all vehicles. Now you can see, I'm trying to think what they call it now, the bio plant of some kind, but this was all vehicles where I worked as well. And you just see this modern plant there. Produce very little energy, more virtue signalling. Somebody who worked for one of those companies, when we were doing the clean air zone, wanted me to talk about how they were actually quite dangerous, these sort of businesses. So, I mean, you can see more hybrid business units. We can't fill up what we've got. We're building more. But it's a tragedy what's gone off down here. And I worked in the steel industry from 1980 to 85, and I know there was too many people working in it. But it could have been made to work. But there was no intention from Thatcher. I mean, I did well, like I keep saying, and there's no hate from me, but it's just ludicrous to run a country just on the service sector and decimate the actual industry. So you can see more of the bio plant up there. A proper steel making company there. Look what we've got now. The problem is when you shut down the industry the way they did, there's a knock-on effect. So like your mining communities, all the little businesses that worked off your coal mines, they all shut down. I think there was something like 60,000 steel jobs went in Sheffield. Within a few years, 60,000 jobs. And I think one of the main places for the dispute in 1980, or 79-80, was actually Hadfields, and that was actually a private business that were making profits, and that's where you'll now find Meadowhall. We could have upgraded Hadfields, but people have had different intentions. It's not about you and me anymore, it's just about how much money these lot can make. Now there's a vote this Thursday for the South Yorkshire Mayoral, and this is a South Yorkshire Mayoral pushing all this lot. So if you're against all this lot, you can't be voting for Labour South Yorkshire Mayoral. But we know what's going to happen, is South Yorkshire's going to vote for Labour. Even though they don't like what's happening with the policing, they don't like all this nonsense, the majority of them are going to go and vote for Labour. So you can see more and more business units, modern business units around here. Now this was Fullerton Road. You find London Scandinavian Metallurgical Company down here. My dad worked here for 20 odd years. This was the Fullerton pub, that's gone now. For anybody who's worked around this area, probably feel the same as me. Certainly no jealousy on my part, but it's not been good for the country. I think there's a whole generation being put onto some type of disability just because they can't deal with the way things have gone in the country. There's no proper jobs for them anymore. We're going to cross over in a moment because I think it stops on this side as we come into Wellgate. So as I come into Wellgate, yeah, you can see it's two-way now, this cycle lane. There's a cycle shop. I think it's 222 Wellgate, and it's shut down because it's just killed his business doing all this rubbish. Can't believe it, can you? It's like something out of a Carry On film. We're getting very close to Rotherham town centre now, and onto Wellgate. So we're at Bradmarsh Business Park. Now we were always told that we produce more steel in the UK than we ever have done. I just don't believe it. Probably produce more steel per person, but I don't believe we're producing more steel now than we produced back in the 1980s. When I see that most of this site's been butchered. Just watching out I don't get knocked over by a cyclist. So we're getting out of the car near the canal basin one day. So you look for a car, you open your door, and then somebody comes whizzing by on a bike. So down there, Riverside Way, you'll find the relic well, it's I'm trying to think what they call it now. It's Steel Enge. You find Steel Enge down there. But if you want to walk down there someday, you can look for the, I think it's Peugeot, no, Citroen garage just here. Right, I've got a video on Steel Enge. You can actually just see the old Millmore still standing just behind there as well, the floodlights on it. Built a lovely new main stand and it never got used. Now they play in the New York Stadium, which is about there, and it's everything I detest about football, the New York Stadium. Give me Millmore any day. Same again, no jealousy. I've been at Old Trafford VIP treatment and I said if this is the future of football, I'm not interested. It's not football anymore. It's just a big money making scam. Seeing how much money they can get out of the working class, it's worked hard for the money. £17 to go and watch Works Uptown at Macclesfield in a playoff that's about 2 or 3 divisions below the league, and they want 17 quid for a semi-final. So I'm looking for that bike shop on Wellgate, because if the guy's in, I'll go and have a chat with him. I'll also do a short video on it, on his shop if I can find him. But I thought spring would never start, and it's about, to me, it's about the first week of spring this. We're just about in May. The weather's been, what's it, 9, 10, 11 degrees over the last month. And they talk about global warming. So you can just start to see the floodlights for the New York Stadium just there. But do you think the cycle lanes are being worth the 9 million quid or so? But on top of that, you've also got to think the effect on the businesses actually putting in. So we're now on Wellgate. You can't blame all the online shopping. Can't blame Meadowhall and Parkgate. You've got to blame some of our councils for the madness. So we've got a beautiful old bridge now. River Dun. And it was actually the River Dun when I looked at an old map of Sheffield, D-U-N-N. So you've got the New York Stadium right there. You'd have to pay him £1,000 to go in there. But it's just completely deserted, this road. Probably shut down, or people don't know where they're going anymore. The more you make it harder for cars, the more people don't want to come near town centres. But they have other plans for the town centres. Rotherham's like a mini Sheffield, and it's pushing the same agenda, trying to urbanise the town centre, but that's not what town centres are there for. Last time I filmed this it wasn't so nice, but again a really clear picture this time as we come in. So it looks like you've only got one actual road down the middle here, but you've only got 1 hour parking here. So I don't know what's going off here, whether they're still working on this area. All they've done is actually got the cycle lanes along the road. I'm a cyclist, I don't need all this nonsense. Just make the roads safer. Get rid of like all these obstacles they put in the middle of the road. I can just see in a few years this lot all being smashed out. So they've wasted absolutely millions doing this, and then they'll have another idea. And then we'll have all the actual upheaval again. You can see the pavements. There's no people around here. And what, tarmac's fine, nice tarmac pavements, because when you dig them up it don't matter. So whatever nonsense Sheffield can do, Rotherham can do just as well. And I think this is driven by things like South Yorkshire Mayoral. Well, they're certainly giving the money for this sort of thing. Take you down to Canal that way. But even to park near Canal one day, I had to use an app on my phone, which I wasn't going to do, to park. Luckily I found somewhere I didn't have to use to pay. So I've got to try and find 222 Welstgate, wherever it is. It looks like this little bit is still not complete round here. As you can see from down there to here, the cycle lanes seem to have disappeared. So I think they're going to narrow this to one lane of traffic. But I've just been talking to a guy and he says people are ignoring the one way and just coming down here anyway because nobody knows what's going off. Just about in the town centre. You might as well see the last bit, the Cutler's Arms just here. But I'm told I've got to go a bit further on because this Wellgate's probably been altered since due to all the silly systems running through Rotherham. But you can just see this lot, I mean, how can you run a business along here? Same happened with Supertram in Sheffield. You kill all the small, medium-sized businesses off and then the globalists take over. And that's the intention a lot of the time. They don't want your small, medium-sized businesses operating. They want highly regulated businesses who pay money to be regulated. We'll just stop at this end of the road, and then I'm going to find the other bit of Wellgate and see what's going off up there. I couldn't take money for doing this to people. So we've got Main Street here, that takes you down to the police station, and then I'm going to stop when I just get to this corner up here. This was the old picture house just here. So that's it, a journey along the cycle lane from Magna to Rotherham town centre, and I'll leave it at that.